Hey, I've got a really cool interview for you today. We're going to be talking about someone who did their first business venture with an emerging brand, expanded. It's going to be a great interview. Stick around.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Schin.
Hey, Skyler, how you doing?
I'm good, Don. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hey, for our audience, we're doing something a little bit unique here. We're going to be talking to a franchisee. We don't get franchisees on too often, but I thought I met Skyler through LinkedIn connections, referral, and just thought it was a really, really neat opportunity. Home services is really a hot franchise opportunities these days. And there's some good brands coming up. There's some good, well-established brands. There's some emerging brands. And I just thought Skyler's story was so good that we needed to share it with my regular viewers. So the company that Skyler is operating is a franchise down in Wilmington, North Carolina for Crawlspace Ninja. I love the industries like this where it's kind of can be a fly-by-night, seat of the pants, people just doing the business sometimes, and yet the consumer really has no idea, and the consumers often don't get really good service. I love what Crawlspace Ninja is doing. Their vision, really is to offer top of the line customer service in an industry or in a space where it's really tough to get quality vendors and quality suppliers. So that's a real quick thing about Crawlspace Ninja, and just Skyler, just to kick us off, if you just give us a minute or so in your own words, your own who you are, a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. You might have to flash something up and say, hey, you can't talk anymore. 2 minutes is up. But I joined the Marine Corps as an infantry officer in 2011 and got out in 2021. Made the decision to get out in about 2019 and started thinking about what am I going to do after the Marine Corps. I was an infantry officer and got really good training in how to plan and execute things. And I say things because in the Marine Corps we call them missions, and in life it just translates to project management, to executing companies, right, and doing things, leading and managing people.
Thanks.
So, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for your tax dollars training me how to do this.
Well, thank you for your service, man. It was we got the better end of the deal there. So, but not to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. So I took the military decision-making process that I learned as a young captain and applied it to business and said, okay, this is when I get out of the Marine Corps, I want to be a business owner. I don't want to work for anybody. And I want to do that for the rest of my life. How do I do that? So business was the answer. And then inside business, what am I going to do? And the military decision-making model talks about, so you have this end state, this big vision, this goal. And then you say, okay, to accomplish that thing, I want these things to be true during that process. So then you tell your staff to go make a bunch of plans. And as the commander, you come up with COA selection criteria. So okay. I came up with these different selection criteria that I was going to evaluate business models on to discern what business am I going to do. Because I didn't really care about the industry. I love leading people. So I wanted to lead people and help them accomplish things that they hadn't done before, and do all that while making money and providing for my family. So I did that, and that led me to a bunch of opportunities, and ultimately I picked Crawlspace Ninja because of the COA selection criteria that I had developed.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, seriously, we really appreciate your service and your commitment to your country for so many years. Um, so, did you have any help? Did you find Crawlspace Ninja on your own? Did you work with a consultant or a broker at all?
Yeah, at some point along this journey for me, figuring out what I wanted to do, I was connected with a franchise broker, and he brought me a bunch of opportunities. I seriously evaluated three.
Okay.
And then I had also looked at starting some homegrown businesses myself. So it wasn't just franchising that I was looking to get into, and ultimately picked Crawlspace Ninja because that company hit all of the wickets that I was looking for.
Okay. And was there anything about franchising versus go it alone? In fact, I just did a webinar today about that. Um, about comparing them, head to head. Anything in particular about franchising that you said, yeah, hey, that really kind of moved you towards the franchising side?
Yeah, so success leaves clues, and everything I want in life somebody's already done or achieved. And I feel like the fastest way towards success is to follow a model, somebody that's done it. So complete full disclosure here, and I think I've told you this before. I started Crawlspace Ninja, and I started another company at the same time. One was a franchise, one was a homegrown bootstrapped company. And my decision was I would learn about business through the franchise and from the franchisor, Michael Church, and take those lessons and apply them to another company that I'm going to grow at the same time. So I've been able to do that successfully with this
Okay, cool.
franchise.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, you did. I do remember you talking about that. So that's awesome. So you're into this now a few months. What was the biggest, maybe learning curve, something you had to deal with? Something, even though franchising is great, it's not necessarily always perfect. What was in those early, say, first 6 months or so? Any learning curves? Anything comes to mind that that is memorable in your first 6 months?
So we're going to franchise training. So, we're not a few months down the road. We just started our journey. And I brought with me 2 production guys, my business partner, myself, and our sales rep, the guy we hired to do sales. And my sales guy quit on day 3 of franchise training. So we had to kind of, figure out what to do because he didn't hack it, and the ship was. We had started the sailing project, right? Like there's no stopping. So I wanted to learn sales, so I picked that rock up, and
Cool.
we had a really good sales training process that I learned. I'd never sold anything, and coming out of franchise training for sales, I wasn't very good because I'd never done it before. And the 4 stages of learning: unconscious incompetence, you don't know what you don't know, and then conscious incompetence, you don't know the thing, and then conscious competence, you know it, but you got to think about it real hard, and then unconscious competence, where you don't have to think about it, you're good at it. I came out of training, and I was so unaware of myself that I was really, really bad. I had the scripts memorized. But I would read my sales scripts 4 times every morning. I woke up at 4 a.m. and read my sales process 4 times before going out in the day. And when you're doing that, you read it really fast. Well, I didn't realize I was talking to customers just as fast as I was reading the thing. And the corporate trainer came down, listened, did some ride-alongs, hit me on the head, and he's like, "Skyler, you just need to take a breath, dude. Just pause, just pump the brakes." And after he helped me become aware of my incompetence, then things really turned around, and I had the highest dollar per issue in the entire franchise enterprise while I was actively selling.
Cool. Well, looking back, let's say if you and you did have an advisor, you had a consultant, but now that but once you started the business, consultants are great. My company does that as well. However, you don't, consultant knows hundreds of brands, so they don't get in specifically, to individual brands. Sometimes they own one themselves, but if you had some advice to someone starting this, if you could look back and go, boy, I wish somebody told me X. What comes to mind? What kind of advice might you give someone, considering franchising? Let's keep it kind of generic.
What advice would I give to somebody considering franchising?
Yeah,
I think it would be like the same advice I'd give to anybody doing anything new. You don't know what you don't know, and the people that you're talking to don't know what you don't know. So they don't necessarily know what advice to give you because they don't know what you need. And just, I think I fall into the trap of being arrogant a lot. I don't mean to be arrogant, but, in the Marine Corps, they taught us to be confident even when you don't know what you're doing. Because nobody wants to follow somebody that's timid and doesn't know what they're doing. And you can be confident and not know what you're doing. And I feel like because I'm that way, sometimes people don't speak into me the way I want them to speak into me. So my advice would be just be as humble as you can be, and also have grace for people because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what you don't know. So just really having grace for that relationship, especially in like a franchisee-franchisor relationship, the franchisor doesn't know what you don't know. And they're probably thinking more highly of you than you deserve, or at least than I deserved. And I think because of that relationship, I probably ended up in more tight spots than I would have been had I asked for more help and didn't put on this facade of being confident in something.
Yeah, it's hard, I think, in general, particularly for men. I try not to be sexist, but I think a lot of it's a male thing, and especially age. You're younger, but for a lot of people that start franchises are older. They're maybe 50-ish or older. They've been successful in a certain field. They're not used to being uncomfortable. They're not used to asking for help, and it's hard for them to ask for help. And then what I've been teaching on a lot on the franchisor side, franchisors don't dive into people's gaps that much, and they assume you bring a lot of stuff to the table, and so they aren't always looking for well, Skyler's got this problem or Skyler needs help over here. They do their training. They're very focused on operate that, follow the system. And so it's interesting that's a really interesting perspective. And again, that's really why I wanted to have you on the call today, because I knew you'd give us a perspective that most of my viewers never see. So let me switch gears a little bit. You own 2 locations, so that's, in franchise lingo, you're a multi-unit owner. You had great success starting off your first one. So that prompted you to say, hey, I want to expand into my neighboring territory, so to speak. Talk to me a little bit about owning 2 locations. Why are you thinking now about maybe divesting one of the 2? Not maybe, but you are thinking about divesting one of the 2. What have you learned about owning 2 locations is probably the best question.
Well, we don't have enough time to talk about all that. So we did $1 million in revenue in our first 11 months in Wilmington, where I live. And we did the same, where we did like 1.25 or 1.3 million the following full calendar year. So again, a lot of initial success. And I arrogantly, naively, whatever word you want to throw on there, thought that I could duplicate that in another location that I didn't live in. And I still think I could, knowing what I know now.
Yep.
But so if you've never hired anybody before and you're not just naturally good at it, it's a very difficult skill to master. And it's even harder when you don't know anybody to get referrals to hire, right? It's kind of easy to hire people if Johnny has a friend who needs a job and he can vouch for his friend. It's a lot. It's another business skill, hiring people completely remotely and then entrusting them to do this thing, even though you have a great recipe for how to make a hamburger. So I didn't have enough cash saved up to open a location far away from me with the business skills that I had.
Okay.
And I could expand upon that, but that's kind of like, I'd say that's the short and sweet of why I'm selling Charleston.
Yeah, and a big reason why I asked the question. No, that's great. No, I appreciate the answer and your transparency. A big reason I ask is that it is common, whether it's a franchise or not, it's common for people to open, if they've been successful, to open a second location. It's also very common for them to struggle with that second location. So it's one of those interesting things where it happens in standalone independent businesses as well as it potentially can happen in a franchise, because some of the dynamics are identical, whether it's a franchise or not. So no, I appreciate your transparency. That was great. So as someone who's both, you've built up one location, you've got the second one running to a certain extent. What do you think, if you had to share something about the extra location and somebody else stepping into a business that is existing, any thoughts about that? Again, in general, it could be brand specific, but just looking for thoughts on someone that might want to step into that location.
Before I answer that question, I think part of the answer, you said something about home services in your intro, about being a really good space.
Yeah.
I chose this company, this franchise. One of the reasons was because I just wanted to lead people, and I didn't care what industry it was in. And since making that decision, my other company, the homegrown one, is a property management firm, and the same thing applies to that. There are certain industries that if you tuck your shirt in, if you show up on time, if you do what you say you're going to do, you look people in the eye and you shake their hand, you're going to beat 97% of the competition. So it's just really simple to do those things. Nice. Like it is. And so my advice, or what somebody would do if they came in and took that territory over, is just those things. Like if you did that and you're in the office every single day and you treat people with respect, the stuff sells itself. There's a sales process, and it's not as easy as I just said. But it's easy. It's simple, I should say, to distinguish yourself and separate yourself from the competition. Where I'm at from just a business entrepreneur skill set standpoint is I need to be a little bit more hands-on and around to influence people the way I want to influence them, to have the effect that I want to have. But that's a me thing. So somebody could go into Charleston and do what I'm doing. Like if I lived in Charleston, I'd be doing the same thing down there. Because we don't have a sale, like things sell. We got jobs on the books right now, and we're not doing any marketing down there. It's a good business if you tuck your shirt in, show up on time, I guess you don't have to tuck your shirt in because people don't do that as much these days, but I do.
Yeah, you're going to put a whole company out of business there, that Untucked company, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, and I think it's these are what you just said are good things to be successful in life. I think, my grandson, my oldest grandson, just started playing tackle football, and one of his coaches is a guy that I knew as a trainer in a gym, and I met one of his sons, who he didn't have the son back in the days I was training with him. And long story short, this 12-year-old boy comes up, he shakes my hand. It's the best handshake I've almost ever gotten from a man, let alone from a 12-year-old boy. Called me sir, looked me in the eye. A lot of the things you just said. It's simple. Just show up and do some of the respectful, courteous, simple things, and show up, for goodness sake. I was at a dinner party with somebody the other day, and she's having trouble hiring people because they don't even show up for the interviews. They set up the time and then don't even show up for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So great suggestions for success in life, but obviously in a home services business, that's clearly what people want, because companies aren't showing up. People in companies aren't showing up. If I want two questions, and I'm going to post. I'm going to pop something up here for people to see. There we go. Two more, actually three questions, but one of the last three questions. Emerging brands. Any advice for somebody weighing businesses that they like, and they seem to really prefer the emerging brands, but it's certainly different than an experienced or tenured type brand. Any suggestions for people considering emerging brands?
So my advice would be, if it's an emerging brand and it's not McDonald's, right? I don't know how you would define an emerging brand, but I'd probably say less than 10 years old.
Yeah, usually less than 5 to 10, typically under 25 or 30 units. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Crawlspace Ninjas, I think it's been 6 or 7 years they've been a franchise. You need to have grace for your franchisor in the same way that you expect them to have grace for you, because they're an emerging franchise, right? So, and then on the flip side of that, know that you're also going to get a lot more autonomy.
Yeah.
To build the business the way you want to build it, to fit your lifestyle, to do whatever. So, I would say if you've never opened a business, well, I mean, I read a couple other books and good luck. I think you can do a great job. Because that was
watch
me,
this
right?
podcast on a regular basis. No.
Click the link below. But yeah, so if you've never opened a business before, I think this is a great opportunity for you, but because it is emerging and you can be part of the front wave. And I think in every brand, one of the reasons I picked Crawlspace Ninja is because it was an emerging brand and there was not a national brand, right? So if I say pest control, you might say Terminix.
Yep.
Right. And the market kind of gets saturated. Well, I recognized that there was no crawl space saturation, and thought that if I was, because I believe that this brand can be that and will be that. And if I'm one of the founding, emerging franchisees, then once I figure out how to run a bunch of them, because my business skills grow, I could have 5 or 10 or 15 because I know how to run that level of business, and they're not going to be as expensive. I already have the trust from the franchisor, right? They trust me a lot. So I can be part of that wave as we become a national brand, which is why I chose them. And just know in that process, with the responsibility and the autonomy comes maybe some things, you don't get some things that you wish you had that you thought a franchise should provide. And maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. I don't know. But my advice would be if you've been around the block, you're going to love this because you're going to get a great product. You're going to get a great brand. You're going to get a great brand, great YouTube, a lot of power to help you come to the market. And you're going to have all the autonomy you want to just do very well. And if you've never done it before, you can also have that, but you're going to maybe have a little bit more pain in the business owner growing process.
That's great. That's great. And that's kind of leads me to my second to last question for you, is just because obviously you've done well in Wilmington. You're staying in Wilmington. You're meeting your long-term goals. You shared with me off camera about one of your kids turning 5 next year, and you want to really start to get out of the rat race, so to speak. And so, what do you see for this industry, and what do you see for this brand in the industry? What's the go forward that excites you about sticking around?
Man, lots of things. So, yeah, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I set a goal to have my passive income exceed my living expenses by the time my first kid turned 5. And that'll be on January 5th next year. And the way I've structured Wilmington and the location that I have here, 60% of my NOI will pay for my life while paying a general manager to run the business. So I'll still go to the office. I'm still involved. I'm still running the marketing part. But everything else, my general manager does. She does a phenomenal job. And the business profits will pay for my life. So to me, that's exiting the rat race. And I had a business partnership that I started this all with. We decided to go our separate ways this year, and with that came some extra workloads and responsibilities. And I don't need another location to accomplish the goals that I set.
Bingo. Yep.
And want to have multiple locations in life because part of my bigger life picture, but and part of we're talking before the show, how do you be a present, engaged father? And part of that is minimizing the balls you're throwing up in the air.
Yep. All right. This is the last question, I promise. And I always ask this question: is there anything that we haven't talked about, questions I haven't asked, or things that you have shared? Is there anything else that, while you're knowing our audience are buyers of franchises, brokers of franchisers, their franchise brands, anything else that you want to be sure is said today that we haven't already talked about?
Anything that I want to make sure is said that we haven't talked about? If you are an entrepreneur or you're a business owner and you are trying to exit the rat race and get your business profits to a place that they can support you while paying people to do everything, I just think that's so cool. If you've arrived, find me and give me advice. If you haven't gotten there yet, I know you can do it. I'm extremely confident I'll be there in just a couple months. It's a really fun journey. If you're like, I have no clue how that's possible. I believed in this idea of this dream, and then I started this business, and my life is just stress. Just keep plodding, and you'll get through that phase. I'm a huge proponent for coaches and consultants. Like I said in the beginning, everything I want, everything you want, somebody's done before. So just find them and ask them how to do it and do what they say.
That is an awesome way to close. Skyler, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Let me do the outro video, and I'll talk to you in 2 seconds. And if you like this podcast, you're getting value from this, subscribe, like us, ask me your questions in the comments. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Skyler.